The night was wild, the kind of night when even the bravest people stayed inside. Thunder shook the earth. Rain slammed against the roads like falling stones, and the wind howled as if angry at the world. A lone truck rolled slowly along the highway, its headlights fighting against the heavy curtain of water. Inside the truck sat a man, his hands tight on the wheel, his eyes sharp on the slippery road ahead. He had driven through storms before, but tonight felt different. The air itself seemed alive, heavy, pressing against his chest. Every flash of lightning revealed the empty fields on both sides of the road, and every shadow looked like it was waiting to move. The man, whose name was Daniel, muttered to himself, "Just get home. Just a little more." His truck rattled as thunder cracked again. Then it happened. A sudden shape appeared in the storm. Right in front of his truck. He hit the brakes hard. The tires screeched on the wet road. The truck jolted. Water splashed high, and then, thud, something slammed against the side of his vehicle. Daniel's heart jumped, his hands shook on the wheel. "What the hell was that?" he whispered. He threw open the door and jumped into the storm. Rain poured over him, soaking his jacket in seconds. His boots splashed in the muddy water as he ran to the side of the truck. The wind roared in his ears, making it hard to hear anything. Then he froze. His headlights caught the figure lying on the ground, not a broken branch, not an animal, but something else. It was a girl. She was curled up, shivering, her skin shining faintly under the storm, her hair stuck to her face, silver strands glowing as lightning lit the sky. Daniel blinked, his breath catching in his throat. She didn't look human. Her skin was pale with strange marks, glowing faintly like fireflies trapped under the surface. The girl tried to stand but stumbled, her hands reached out, trembling. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "Please, help me." The words were broken, but clear enough. Daniel stepped back in shock. His mind screamed at him. This isn't real, this can't be real. But the storm was real, the rain was real, and so was the girl lying at his feet. Her eyes lifted to him, wide and glowing with fear. They weren't normal eyes, they were too bright, too deep, like two pools of light fighting the storm's darkness. She coughed, water dripping from her lips. "Don't leave me here," she begged. Her voice carried something more than fear. It carried desperation, the sound of someone running from something worse than death. Daniel hesitated, his heart pounded. What if she was dangerous? What if this was a trap? His human instinct told him to run, to get back in the truck and drive away. But another part of him, the part that couldn't turn his back on someone weak and broken, kept him rooted in place. A loud crack of thunder shook the ground, and the girl flinched, curling closer to his legs. "They will find me," she whispered. "Please." "Not out here, not in the storm?" Her words chilled him more than the rain. Who was they? Why did she sound like she had nowhere safe to go? Daniel glanced around. The fields were empty. Only the storm moved, yet for some reason he felt eyes on him. The storm wasn't just nature anymore. It felt like a cover hiding something else, something that wanted the girl back. He reached down, grabbing her arm gently. Her skin was cold, almost icy, yet there was warmth deep inside, like she was fighting to stay alive. He pulled her up and she leaned heavily on him. "Too weak to stand alone. Come on," he muttered, his voice low. "We need to get out of this storm." He helped her toward the truck, every step sinking in the mud. The rain whipped against them, but he kept moving, half carrying her until they reached the open door. The girl clung to him, her fingers digging into his sleeve. "Don't let them take me," she whispered again. Her words cut through him like a blade. He had no idea who they were, but he knew one thing. The fear in her voice was real. Daniel lifted her into the truck. Her small frame shook as she collapsed onto the seat, water dripping from her clothes onto the floor. He climbed in after her, slamming the door shut. The sound of the storm dulled, but his heart still raced. For a moment, silence filled the truck, except for the rain pounding the roof. Daniel stared at her, breath heavy. She stared back. Her glowing eyes locked on his face. "You're human," she said softly, almost like it was a surprise. Almost like she had been searching for one. Daniel didn't answer. He didn't know what to say. He only knew one thing. The night had just turned into something he could never explain. And the storm outside was only the beginning of something far more dangerous. The storm outside did not calm. It only grew heavier. The truck shook under the weight of the rain. Daniel sat frozen in the driver's seat, his hands gripping the wheel. His eyes kept shifting toward the girl beside him. She looked weak, trembling, her wet hair clinging to her glowing skin. She turned her head slowly, her bright eyes locking onto his. Her lips parted, her breath shaky. "Don't leave me," she whispered. Her voice was low, broken, but sharp enough to pierce through the thunder. Daniel swallowed, unsure how to answer. He wanted to ask her who she was, what she was doing in the middle of this storm, but the fear in her voice stopped him. "You need a doctor," he finally said, his voice rough. "You're hurt. You can't stay like this." Her hand shot out, grabbing his wrist. Her grip was weak but desperate. "No, not a doctor, not your people, please. No one can see me." Her glowing eyes widened, filled with panic. "If they find me, I will die, and you will die too." Daniel froze. Her words chilled him more than the cold storm. "Who?" he asked carefully. "Who's after you?" She shook her head violently, raindrops still sliding from her silver hair. "I can't say their name. They hear when it is spoken. They always hear." Her voice trembled as if she was reliving some nightmare. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. The wind slammed against the truck as though the storm itself wanted to break inside. Daniel glanced out the window, but all he saw was the endless rain. Yet her words made him feel as if something was hiding out there. "Waiting, please," she whispered again, pulling at his jacket. "I need shelter. I need to hide just for one night." "Don't leave me out here." Daniel's heart pounded. His mind screamed that this was insane. She wasn't human. She had glowing skin, strange marks, eyes that looked like living light. He should be afraid. But when he looked at her, wet, shaking, clinging to him like her life depended on it, he couldn't walk away. "Why me?" he asked, his voice tight. "Why did you run into my truck? Why not someone else?" Her glowing eyes softened, a strange sadness passing over them. "Because you are human," she said simply. "And humans, they still have mercy." Daniel blinked. Her words echoed inside him. Was that how she saw him? Was that what she believed? He wasn't sure if he liked the responsibility in those words. She coughed, pressing a hand to her chest. The glowing lines on her skin pulsed faintly. As if reacting to her pain, Daniel stared at them, unsure if they were wounds or something else. "You're hurt," he said again. "I can't just watch you suffer." But she shook her head. "No, this pain is mine." "It's better than chains." Her voice cracked at the last word, and her hands curled into fists. Daniel frowned. "Chains? Who chained you?" The girl looked away, her jaw tight. "They called me worthless. They said I wasn't strong enough. Not pure enough. They left me. Then they came back to take me. Like I was no more than an animal. I escaped. But they are coming." Her voice shook as she pressed her forehead against the cold window. Watching the storm outside for the first time, Daniel noticed how she sat, like a cornered creature, ready to collapse but unwilling to give up. The kind of posture that spoke of long suffering, of someone who had run far too long. His chest tightened. He didn't know why, but her words pulled something deep inside him. He had felt alone before, abandoned in his own ways. He knew what it meant to be left behind. The truck rattled again as the storm screamed louder. The girl suddenly sat up straighter, her glowing eyes sharp with fear. "They are close," she whispered. "I can feel them." "They always find me." Daniel's skin prickled. He looked out through the rain, but all he saw was darkness. "There's nothing out there," he muttered, trying to convince himself more than her, but she shook her head, her hand gripping his arm so tightly her nails dug into his sleeve. "No, you don't understand. The storm is their cover. They use it, they hide in it. They will come." Her desperation sank into him like poison, and he realized there was no way back. If he abandoned her now, she would die, and he would live with the weight of it forever. Daniel exhaled sharply. "All right," he said at last. "There's a cabin? Not far from here. It's small, but it'll keep us out of the storm. You can hide there." Her glowing eyes widened, relief and disbelief mixing in them. "You'll take me?" she asked softly, almost like a child asking for something impossible. "Yes," he answered, though his voice was heavy. "But only for tonight. After that." "I don't know," her lips trembled. But she nodded quickly. "One night is enough." "Maybe." Daniel started the engine again, the truck groaning as the wheels spun against the mud before finding grip. He drove slowly, carefully, his eyes scanning the storm for shadows. But his thoughts kept returning to the girl beside him. She leaned back against the seat, exhausted. But her eyes never left the windows. Her fear was sharp, constant. She whispered something under her breath, words in a language Daniel didn't understand. The glowing lines on her skin flickered as she spoke. Daniel gripped the wheel tighter, He had no idea what he was driving into. He only knew one thing. This girl's desperate plea had changed his night. His life, maybe even more. And outside, hidden in the storm, faint lights moved, watching, following, waiting. The truck crawled along the broken road, its headlights slicing through the thick rain. Daniel's knuckles turned white on the steering wheel as he fought to keep control. The storm roared louder, trees bent like they were about to snap, and water rushed across the road like a wild river. Beside him, the alien girl sat silent but tense. Her glowing eyes scanned the storm as if searching for something unseen. She pressed herself against the door, her body trembling, but not only from the cold. Her fear was deeper, sharper. Daniel glanced at her. "We'll reach the cabin soon, hold on." Her head turned slowly, her wet silver hair falling into her face. "Will it keep us safe?" she asked softly. Her voice carried doubt, but also a fragile thread of hope. Daniel didn't answer right away. He wasn't sure himself. The cabin was old, small, barely strong enough against a normal storm, but it was the only place within miles where they could hide. "It'll be better than this truck," he finally said. The girl closed her eyes, whispering words in her strange language. The glowing marks on her skin pulsed faintly with each word. Daniel forced himself to focus on the road, but curiosity ate at him. Who was she? Why was she glowing? And most of all, who was hunting her? After what felt like hours, though it was only minutes, Daniel saw the shape of the cabin in the distance. Its roof sagged, its wooden walls leaned, but it stood against the storm like a survivor. He slowed the truck and pulled up close. The headlights lit up the door. Barely hanging on rusty hinges, Daniel cut the engine. The sudden silence was deafening, broken only by the pounding rain. He looked at the girl. "Come on. Let's move before this storm drowns us." She hesitated, her glowing eyes flicking toward the black fields. "They are close," she whispered. "I can feel them." Daniel's chest tightened, but he didn't let fear take control. "Then we better get inside fast." He opened the door, rain slamming into him instantly. He ran around to her side and pulled the door open. She clutched his arm as she stepped out, her small frame shaking. Together they pushed through the storm. The mud sucked at their boots. The wind clawed at their clothes. Daniel half carried her to the cabin door. He shoved it open, the hinges screaming, and dragged her inside. The inside was dark, damp, and smelled of old wood, but it was shelter. Daniel slammed the door shut and slid the heavy bar across it. The sound of the storm dulled, but the wall still shook with each gust of wind. The girl collapsed onto the floor, her chest rising and falling quickly. Daniel grabbed an old blanket from a dusty shelf and wrapped it around her. Her glowing skin dimmed slightly under the cloth, but her fear still burned in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "If not for you, I would already be gone." Daniel knelt beside her, his brows furrowed. "You need to tell me what's going on. Who are you running from? Why do they want you so badly?" Her lips trembled. Her eyes flicked toward the window where rain streaked down the glass. "I was born in chains," she said softly. "My people said I was weak, not worth keeping. They abandoned me, left me to die, but when I grew, they came back. They wanted to use me, control me, make me their tool." Her hands shook as she pulled the blanket tighter. "I refused, I escaped, but they don't forgive. They hunt until nothing is left." Daniel felt a chill crawl down his spine. "And you think they'll come here? In this storm?" Her glowing eyes locked onto his. "Not think," she said, her voice heavy. "I know." As if to prove her words, a faint humming sound drifted through the storm outside. Low and sharp, Daniel froze, listening. The hum grew louder, mixed with the pounding rain. His stomach twisted, the girl's face paled. "The hunters," she whispered. "They've found us." Daniel moved to the window. He pressed himself against the wall and peeked outside through the sheets of rain. He saw it. Strange lights cutting through the darkness, moving slowly, scanning the fields. They weren't headlights, they were too smooth, too cold. Daniel's heart hammered. He turned back to the girl. "They're machines?" She nodded weakly. "Machines, and worse, they use the storm to hide. They can smell fear." Daniel clenched his fists. His mind raced. He had no weapons, only a few tools from his truck and his own stubborn will. Yet when he looked at the girl, fragile, glowing, begging for safety, he knew running was no longer an option. He crouched down beside her. "Listen, you're safe here with me. I won't let them take you." His voice was firm. But inside, he wondered if he had just promised more than he could deliver. The girl's eyes softened, shimmering with tears. "Why?" she asked. Why would you risk yourself for me? You don't even know me. Daniel hesitated. He didn't know the answer himself, but he remembered the way she had whispered. Humans still have mercy. Maybe that was the answer. Because I can't stand by and watch someone beg for help, he said at last. Not when I can do something. The girl's lips parted as if she wanted to say more. But then the cabin walls shook as the humming outside grew louder. The storm was no longer the only threat. The hunters were here and they were closing in. Daniel grabbed a heavy iron rod from beside the fireplace. His jaw tightened. His night had begun with a drive home through the rain, but now it had turned into something far bigger. He wasn't just sheltering a stranger. He was standing between her and the things that wanted to drag her back. And for the first time in years, he felt alive. The cabin shook as the storm raged outside. The wind screamed like a living thing. Yet it was not the wind that made Daniel's heart race. It was the low hum that now grew clearer. It was mechanical, steady, unnatural. Daniel gripped the iron rod tighter, his eyes fixed on the window. He could see faint lights sweeping across the rain. White beams cutting through the darkness. They moved too smoothly to belong to nature. The alien girl, wrapped in the blanket, pressed herself into the corner, her glowing eyes wide with dread. "They found me," she whispered. Her voice cracked like broken glass. Daniel turned to her, his voice firm. "Not yet. Not while I'm here," she shook her head, her silver hair sticking to her wet cheeks. "You don't understand. They never stop, they don't need to rest, they don't need to feel. They were built for one purpose, hunt and capture." Daniel looked back outside. The lights grew closer, cutting across the muddy field. He could make out shapes now, machines tall and skeletal, their limbs moving with sharp precision, their heads swiveled slowly, scanning. A cold shiver crawled up his spine. "How many?" he asked, his voice low. The girl hesitated, her lips trembling. "More than one, always more, they hunt in packs." Like wolves, Daniel cursed under his breath. He had only an old cabin, a weak door, and a few rusty tools, but he wasn't about to give her up. Something deep in him refused the thought. The humming grew louder. The beams of light slid across the cabin walls. A faint metallic clang echoed as one of the machines stepped closer. Daniel held his breath. The girl's glowing skin pulsed faster, betraying her panic. "Stay down," Daniel whispered to her. "Don't move, don't make a sound," she obeyed. Curling tighter in the shadows, her fingers dug into the wooden floor. Her eyes never left him. As if clinging to the small thread of protection he offered, a shadow passed across the window. A tall figure moved slowly, scanning. Its head twisted with an unnatural angle, a faint red glow pulsing from its face. Daniel's heart hammered. He crouched low, gripping the iron rod. Sweat rolled down his temple despite the cold storm outside. The machine stopped right outside the cabin door. The hum grew sharper, like an animal sniffing the air. Then came a voice, not spoken but broadcasted through the storm. Mechanical and chilling, target identified. Nearby, resistance probability low. The girl's breath hitched. Her eyes met Daniel's, terror flooding them. She mouthed silently. "They know." The machine's red beam cut across the window. The light brushed over the floor, over Daniel's boots. He held still, not daring to move. The storm roared, covering his ragged breathing. Then bang! The machine slammed a metal arm against the door. The old wood rattled violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. The girl cried out softly, muffling her mouth with her hands. Daniel gritted his teeth. He whispered sharply, "Quiet. Don't give them sound." The machine pounded again, harder this time. The hinges groaned. The bar across the door shook. Daniel's grip on the iron rod tightened. He knew it wouldn't hold for long. The broadcast voice echoed again. "Shelter compromised. Entry authorized." Daniel's stomach twisted. He had seconds, maybe less. He turned to the girl. "Is there another way out?" She shook her head quickly, panic in her glowing eyes. "No, only one door. One way," Daniel cursed. His mind raced. He had no weapons strong enough, no walls strong enough, but he had to try. He couldn't let them take her. The machine slammed again. This time the wood cracked. Splinters shot across the room. The girl whimpered. Pressing herself deeper into the corner, Daniel planted his feet, raising the iron rod like a soldier ready for war. The door shuddered once more, and then, with a violent snap, the bar broke. The door flew open. Rain and wind exploded inside. The figure stepped in, towering, its metal body dripping with storm water. Its glowing red eyes scanned the cabin. "Target located," it declared. its gaze locked instantly on the girl. "No," Daniel roared. He swung the iron rod with all his strength. The metal cracked against the machine's head. Sparks flew, the hunter staggered back but did not fall. Its red eyes flickered and then focused again. It turned toward him, analyzing. Unexpected interference, human detected. Threat assessment? Minimal. Daniel's blood boiled. Minimal, huh? He spat. He swung again, harder this time, striking its joint. The machine stumbled, gears grinding. The girl gasped, her voice breaking. "You can't fight them, they don't stop." But Daniel's jaw tightened. "Then I'll make them stop." His eyes burned with raw defiance. Another shadow appeared in the doorway. Another machine, taller, its eyes scanning. Daniel's breath caught. He was outnumbered, he knew it. Yet his body didn't move back. He stood his ground. The girl's glowing skin flared brighter, her fear turning into something else. Shock, disbelief, maybe even hope. She whispered under her breath, "Humans, they really fight." The first machine raised its arm, a blade sliding out with a metallic hiss. It stepped forward, red eyes glowing brighter. Daniel gripped the rod, heart hammering. "Come on then," he growled. "You'll have to go through me first." The storm screamed louder. Lightning split the sky. Shadows of more hunters moved in the rain. The battle was only beginning. The cabin shook like it would collapse. The door hung broken on its hinges. Rain and wind whipped through the open space. Two hunters stood in the entrance, tall and skeletal, their red eyes glowing like burning coals in the storm. Daniel's chest rose and fell fast. He gripped the iron rod tighter. His muscles screamed with fear, but his heart burned with something stronger. Anger. The alien girl crouched in the corner, blanket wrapped around her glowing frame, her eyes wide, filled with terror, yet locked on him as if he was her only shield. The first machine tilted its head, its metallic voice echoing. "Human interference recorded, resistance level adjusted. Capture priority increased." Daniel spat to the floor, rainwater dripping down his face. "Come and try." The machine lunged, its blade arm flashing in the dim light. Daniel swung the rod, sparks flying as metal hit metal. The force threw him back a step, but he didn't fall. He gritted his teeth and swung again, striking the machine's neck joint. It staggered, gears grinding. The second hunter moved in, its clawed arm swiping at Daniel. He ducked just in time. The blade slicing the air above his head, he rolled to the side, his boot slipping on the wet wooden floor. The cabin groaned under the weight of the storm and the fight. The girl cried out, "You can't beat them. They don't feel pain, they don't stop." Daniel's voice was sharp, his eyes blazing. "Then I'll just have to hit harder." He grabbed a rusty lantern from a shelf and smashed it against the first machine's chest. Glass shattered. Flames burst for a second before the rain killed them. But the oil spread across the machine's metal plates. Daniel snatched a match from his pocket, lit it, and slammed it against the oil. The machine hissed as fire licked up its body. Sparks flying wildly, it roared in mechanical rage, staggering backward into the storm outside. Flames mixed with the rain, steam rising like smoke. The second hunter advanced, its eyes glowing brighter. Daniel's rod was bent now, nearly broken, but he still held it like a sword. "You picked the wrong night," he muttered under his breath. The machine raised its blade high. Lightning flashed across the sky. Daniel braced himself. But before it could strike, he swung low, slamming the rod into its knee joint. The hunter buckled, falling onto one side. Daniel roared and drove the rod down again and again until the machine's red glow flickered. Sparks showered across the floor. The cabin smelled of burning metal and wet wood. The girl stared, her mouth open. Her glowing eyes wide with disbelief, she whispered, "Why? Why fight for me?" Daniel's chest heaved as he leaned on the bent rod. "Because someone has to," he said. His voice raw, but there was no time to rest. More lights flickered in the distance through the storm. 3 more hunters moving toward the cabin. Their humming voices blended with the thunder. The girl gasped. "There's too many. You can't stop them all." Daniel turned to her, his jaw tight. "Then help me." Her eyes widened, glowing brighter. "Me? I have nothing. I can't fight them. That's why I ran." Daniel stepped closer, his voice low but strong. "You're still alive. That means you're stronger than you think. I can't do this alone. You know them better than I do. Tell me how to fight them." The girl trembled, her lips parted as if she wanted to deny it. But his words cut through her fear. She nodded slowly. "Their joints, their sensors strike the red glow, blind them. If they can't see, they can't track. Daniel nodded sharply. Good. Then that's what we'll do. He looked around the cabin quickly. His eyes fell on old farming tools, an axe, a rusted pitchfork, heavy chains. He grabbed the axe and handed the pitchfork to her. She stared at it, her hands shaking. I can't, she whispered. You can, Daniel said firmly, his eyes locking with hers. Because if they take you, it's over. And I won't let that happen. She swallowed hard, her glowing eyes filling with tears. But she gripped the pitchfork, her knuckles white. The humming outside grew louder. The hunters were almost at the door. Daniel stood in front of her, axe ready. The storm seemed to pause for a moment, the silence heavy before the chaos. The door frame shuddered, splinters falling to the floor. Then the hunters burst inside, 3 of them, their red eyes blazing, their blades raised. Daniel charged first. Swinging the axe in a wide arc, he struck one hunter's chest, the blade sinking between its metal plates. Sparks flew, it staggered back, its red glow flickering. The girl screamed, but then drove the pitchfork into another machine's side. Her arms shook with the effort, but the weapon pierced a joint. The hunter turned sharply, its blade swinging at her. Daniel grabbed its arm and pulled it away. Roaring with the effort, the 3rd hunter advanced, its red eyes locking onto the girl. She stumbled back, terror flashing across her face, but Daniel shoved the broken machine into it, both crashing into the wall. The cabin walls cracked, rain bursting inside. Daniel's strength was fading, his body bruised, his breath ragged. But he stood tall, defiance burning in his eyes. You want her? He growled. You'll have to kill me first. The girl's glowing skin flared brighter. Her fear was still there, but now it was mixed with something new. Faith, she whispered under her breath, almost to herself. Humans. They fight like no one else, the storm howled. The hunters pressed forward, and Daniel raised his axe once more. The fight was far from over, but he refused to back down. The cabin was half broken now. Rain poured through cracks in the roof. Lightning flashed again and again. Each flash lit up the hunter's red eyes inside the room. Daniel stood in front of the alien girl, his axe raised, his body shaking from exhaustion but not giving in. The 3 hunters spread out, their metal feet clanging on the wooden floor. One moved left, another right. The 3rd kept its gaze fixed on the girl. Their voices buzzed in the storm. Cold and without mercy, target confirmed. Capture imminent, human resistance. Irrelevant, Daniel spat blood to the floor. Try me, he growled. His whole body ached, but his spirit burned like fire. The girl clutched the pitchfork in trembling hands, her glowing eyes darting between Daniel and the hunters. Her fear was sharp, but under it something new flickered, something she didn't understand yet. Courage. The 1st hunter lunged. Blade arm slashing, Daniel twisted aside, the strike cutting deep into the wall. He swung his axe at the machine's head. Sparks exploded. The hunter staggered, its red glow flickering, but the 2nd hunter was faster. It swung its blade down at Daniel's chest. He barely lifted the axe in time, metal clashed with metal. The force threw him back against the broken door. Pain shot through his side, his breath caught. The girl cried out, "Oh, stop! Leave him!" She dropped the pitchfork and ran to Daniel, kneeling beside him. Her glowing hands pressed against his shoulder. Tears mixed with the rain on her cheeks. The hunters froze, scanning. One of them spoke. Target emotional link identified. Human attachment detected. Use leverage. Daniel's eyes widened as the 3rd hunter stepped forward. Its claw extended toward the girl. She gasped, pressing herself closer to him. Daniel forced himself up, shoving her behind him. No, you'll have to kill me first. But the hunter's cold voice replied, That can be arranged. It raised its blade, ready to strike. The girl screamed and threw herself in front of him. Her glowing skin pulsed bright. Blinding for a moment, the hunters hesitated, their sensors flickering. Daniel used that second, swinging the axe with all his strength into the nearest machine's chest. The blade cracked through the metal plates. The machine shuddered, sparks flying as it collapsed. The other 2 turned sharply, their red eyes glowing hotter. They moved together now. Blades raised, Daniel staggered, his axe bent, his arms heavy. He knew he couldn't last. The girl grabbed his arm, her glowing eyes desperate. Run! Please leave me, save yourself. Daniel stared at her, breathing hard. The storm howled louder outside. No, he said firmly, I don't run, not while someone needs me. She shook her head violently, tears streaming. You don't understand. If they take me, they'll stop. You'll live, but if you fight, we both die. Daniel clenched his jaw, His choice burned inside him: run and survive, or stay and fight against impossible odds. His mind screamed at him to leave. But his heart refused. He looked into her glowing, tearful eyes and said, "If they want you, they'll have to take me too." Her lips parted in shock. No one had ever said that to her. Not her people, not anyone, she whispered. "Why? Why risk everything?" Daniel's voice was steady despite the storm. "Because you asked for help, and I gave you my word." The hunters closed in, their blades cutting the air. Daniel pushed the girl behind him, bracing himself for the strike. Lightning lit the sky, the storm roared. But suddenly, the girl's glowing marks flared brighter than ever before. Her body shook as energy surged through her. The hunters paused, recalculating. She screamed, the sound filled with pain and defiance. A shockwave burst from her body. Slamming into the machines, they staggered back, their red eyes flickering, their joints sparked. For the first time, they hesitated. Daniel turned to her in shock. "What was that?" Her voice shook. "My curse. My power. I never wanted it. That's why they hunt me. To use this to control me." The hunters steadied themselves, their voices buzzing. New threat level detected. Target unstable. Capture priority. Maximum. Daniel's heart pounded. He could barely stand, but he stepped in front of her again, raising the broken axe. "Then you'll have to go through me. Every last one of you." The girl grabbed his arm, shaking her head. "No, if I use it again, it might kill me. But it will destroy them. You must choose. Save me, or let me end them." Daniel froze, the storm pressing on all sides. His chest heaved. The choice was brutal. Either he let her unleash her deadly power and risk losing her, or he stood alone against machines he couldn't defeat. The hunters advanced again, blades glowing red. The girl's glowing body shook as she prepared to release her energy. She looked at him with desperate eyes. "Tell me, Daniel. What do I do?" The storm screamed, the cabin cracked, and in that moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath, waiting for his choice. The storm screamed like a living beast. The walls of the cabin groaned under the weight of wind and rain. Sparks flickered from the hunters' broken joints. Their red eyes glowed brighter, closing in step by step. The girl trembled, her glowing skin pulsing with dangerous energy. Daniel stood beside her, battered and bleeding, the broken axe still clutched in his hands. "Tell me, Daniel," she whispered, her voice shaking but firm. "Do I release it? Do I risk everything?" Daniel's chest rose and fell heavily. His mind screamed with fear. His body begged him to run. But when he looked into her glowing, tear-filled eyes, the answer came from deep inside. His voice was rough but steady. "No, you're more than a weapon. You're more than what they made you believe. If we fight together." Her lips parted, surprise filling her face. No one had ever told her that. Her people had called her weak. The hunters had called her a target, but this human, he called her something else, someone worth protecting. The hunters stepped forward, blades raised. Daniel tightened his grip on the axe. "Stay behind me," he said. His legs trembled. His body screamed with pain, but his spirit blazed. He would not let them take her. The first hunter lunged, its blade slashing through the air. Daniel dodged, swinging his axe into its arm. Metal cracked, sparks flew. The machine screeched and staggered. The girl cried out, grabbing the pitchfork and thrusting it into the second hunter's chest. Her arms shook, but she pushed with all her strength. The blade pierced a joint, the red glow flickering. The third hunter roared mechanically and advanced. Daniel shoved the broken machine into it. The two crashed into the wall, smashing wood and letting rain pour in harder. Lightning flashed, thunder rolled like a war drum. Daniel's body was failing. His breaths came ragged, his arms heavy. He swung again and again until the axe finally broke. The blade snapped, leaving him with only a wooden handle. He staggered, chest heaving. The hunters steadied themselves, recalculating human resistance. Illogical, terminate. One raised its blade for the final strike. The girl screamed. Her glowing skin erupted with blinding light. The cabin shook, the hunters froze, sensors overloaded. Sparks flew wildly from their eyes. "Do it!" Daniel shouted. "Blind them now!" She pushed harder, her body trembling. Her glow exploded brighter. A shockwave burst from her chest. The hunters staggered violently, their red eyes flickering. Their blades dropped. Their voices buzzed and died. One by one, they collapsed, crashing onto the cabin floor like broken statues. Silence except for the rain. Daniel collapsed to his knees. Breathing hard, his hands shook. His face was pale, but he was alive. He turned to the girl. Her body swayed, her glow fading. She dropped to the floor, weak, her eyes barely open. "No, stay with me," Daniel muttered. Dragging himself to her side, he pulled her into his arms. Her cold skin pressed against him. She looked up weakly, her voice soft. "I thought I would die tonight." Daniel's voice was rough. "Not while I'm here, you're safe now." Her lips trembled. And for the first time she smiled. It was small, fragile, but real. "You fought for me, even when you could have left. Why?" Daniel looked down at her, his eyes steady despite his pain. "Because no one deserves to be hunted like an animal. Because you're not worthless, you're not weak, you're alive. And that's enough." Her glowing eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "My people never said that. They only gave me chains, but you gave me hope." Outside, the storm began to calm. The thunder rolled farther away, the rain softened. Light broke through the clouds, a pale dawn spreading across the sky. Daniel stood slowly, carrying her in his arms. The cabin was broken, filled with smoke and metal debris. The hunters lay in pieces. Steam rising from their broken frames, he stepped outside. The storm-washed world glowing under the first touch of sunlight. The girl rested her head against his chest. Her voice was weak but steady. "What now?" Daniel looked across the muddy fields, the endless horizon stretching before them. He knew the hunters wouldn't be the last. Whoever sent them would send more. But he also knew one thing: he wouldn't let her face it alone. "Now," he said firmly. "We keep moving, we stay alive." Together, her glowing eyes looked up at him, filled with something new. "Trust together," she whispered back. The sun broke fully over the horizon. The storm was gone, the night of terror was over. But something greater had begun, for the first time in her life. The alien girl wasn't running alone. And for the first time in his life, Daniel realized his fight wasn't just survival. It was for something greater. As they walked away from the ruined cabin, the girl glanced back once, her glowing marks dim but steady. Her heart heavy but full of a strange new fire, she whispered softly, "One day, the galaxy will know what you did for me. One day, they will remember the human who stood against the storm." Daniel tightened his grip around her, his voice calm but unyielding. "Then let them remember. Because I'm not done yet." The storm had ended, but their journey had only just begun.